In this video, I'm going to expand upon the dynamic groups that we've covered in the prior video in a little bit more detail and give a different use case. I'm also going to cover the feature of auto groups. So let's take a look and recap at the dynamic groups that we had configured previously. We had two dynamic groups, an all users and a marketing docs. And marketing docs was determined whether your title was manager, and all users if your country was US. And of course this was based on data in the LDAP, in Active Directory. But let's take the scenario that some of this data that you want to drive business decisions on, create access control in SharePoint, doesn't exist in Active Directory. What are you going to do now? Well, with the virtual identity server, you can still look one place via the virtual identity server. So SharePoint would look one place for this information, but VIS would provide that joined, merged view on the fly of the data coming from both Active Directory as well as SQL. So now no code changes to your application, and you don't need to extend the schema of Active Directory and put data unnecessarily into Active Directory. So let's take a look at John Smith here through the virtual identity server. So we're looking at him through the virtual identity server, and notice we see these extra data, department number and cost center. So I'm looking at that data coming from SQL Server. So his cost center is currently 1. Let's go ahead and change that right now and put his cost center to 33 and do a refresh on his record here, and notice his cost center is 33. It was updated instantly. So let's go create a group, a dynamic group based on the data coming from SQL Server. So I'm going to do a create group, and I'm going to call it cost center 33. Just seems to make sense to call it that. And I'm going to put that in as the filter. I'm just going to type that in, cost center equals 33. And I'm going to set the search space at the top of the virtual directory and put a search scope of subtree so that it goes all the way down there. And go ahead and enable that. Probably should have tested it first, but I'm confident that I've set this up right, and I did. So John Smith here is the only person that meets this criteria. So we now could use this group within SharePoint or any other application that's going against the virtual directory, against the virtual identity server, and make access control decisions based on this. And then as the data changed, wherever it was sourced, this would change. So let's take a look at that. Let's go to SQL Server and let's change somebody else's cost center to 33 as well. So we'll do a little refresh here, and let's change Alicia's cost center to 33 and Bill Jones to 33. Oops. And let's go ahead and execute this filter again, and look at that. Instantly, the virtual directory in the very next read sees these two additional users. So there didn't need to be a synchronization run if you're taking this data from one environment to another. Instantly, the virtual identity server is seeing this in real time and able to make computational decisions on that. Well, that's definitely a very powerful feature and enables administrators to set up these rules and then with less administration provide access to applications. But the virtual identity server goes one step further. This feature could be very powerful, but it also could be large in some instances. You know, say you wanted to create an all users group, and you have 100,000, 200,000, a million users based in this group. That could be a pretty complex filter to run all the time. The virtual identity server solves this by giving you the capability of what's known as an auto group management. Best way to think of this is very similar to the authenticated users or domain users that Active Directory provides, right? That group, it shows up on the member of attribute of a user in Active Directory's users and computers, or ADUC. Shows up as you being a member of that group, but in reality, there is no group out there for you to be added, for you to add a user to. Instead, it's an automatic group that Active Directory manages. Well, the virtual identity server does this exact same thing, but for applications. So now, SharePoint, or again, any other application, whether that's a PeopleSoft, Siebel, anything that's wanting to leverage Active Directory or leverage your other directory can now take advantage of this auto group. So let's go take a look, and I actually have two of these defined. In my environment, remember, switch back over here to LDAP Manager so that you can see this. Remember that I had two forests, or simulated forests. I have an Active Directory, which is OU equals AD, and that was connected down here to my Active Directory. And I also had an Atom directory, and that was this directory down here. and I had the OU equals Adam. So I've kind of simulated here two different forests, and I have my users that are from Active Directory, and this could be, or Adam rather, that could be my external directory, which contains my external user IDs. And then all my internal people are in this OU equals AD virtual tree, and they're my internal users. So what I've done is configured two auto groups. One is the external Adam users, and one is the internal Adam users. And if we take a look at this configuration, you'll see that the filter in this case is object category equals person, so any people, and the visa equals AD visa. And from the prior videos, you remember that a visa is a virtual identity server adapter. So that's the connection to a downstream directory or database. So in this particular case, I've identified the visa to be the Active Directory visa. And then likewise on the external Adam, I've set the visa to be the Adam visa. And that was done in the configuration time. I could bring that up, but suffice it to say that that's the name of the adapter that I did, that I configured this as. So what this means is that VIS will automatically compute this for any users that are in the directory. And if we take a look through the virtual directory, notice that you see this being set on all of these individual users, and we'll see internal AD users, and we see this on every single user that we're coming down and taking a look at. Internal AD users, again, internal AD users. And if we look at the Adam branch, they will all have the external Adam users set on their member of. So this is being computed, or rather added, to each of these records automatically for each of these records, and we're seeing this. So and again, on the fly in real time. So if we add a new user, so I'll come in here to ADUC, and let's go ahead and add a new user down here at this Adam store. So I'm going to go to user and add a test Adam, and we'll just create that. That's all we need to do in terms of a creation. And let's go ahead and do a refresh browser. And notice it created that test Adam user, or rather we see it through the virtual directory. And let's take a look at that member of, and here it is, external Adam user. So the minute that user was created through that adapter, they were added to this group. So we could have set permissions in an application to look to this group. Again, it's going to look like a standard AD group to the application making the call. And again, whether they're making the query on the group and looking at the member attribute on the group, or whether they're querying member of on the user, VIS is keeping up with that reciprocal link automatically. So you can see how this greatly can simplify application deployment within your environment.